Hey there, cats and kitties. I'm the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and this is going to be a brief little review for Kids on the Slope, Episode 11, Left Alone. And this was really an emotional roller coaster episode. I mean, thicker and heavier and weightier than any of the episodes that have come before this. And basically, we pick up right where we left off with Sentaro about to spirit away in the middle of the night. And as it turns out, Kaoru has been waiting there for him. He's basically, per their conversation the day earlier in the previous episode, Kaoru has pieced together what he thinks Sentaro is going to do. And he knows him well enough to know that Sentaro is going to try to sneak off. And so he confronts him. And they basically, in a sense, kind of come to blows for the first time since, they first met. And it's just a really shocking scene to see Sentaro so adamant about leaving that he pushes violently Kaoru to the ground twice and bloodies his nose. But it's also interesting because the dynamic between the two characters seems to have shifted to the point where Kaoru has become very much like Sentaro, and Sentaro has become very much like Kaoru. And so it's Kaoru actually, pushing Sentaro and saying, "You are not leaving. I am not letting you leave." And, he basically uses Sentaro's words against him, the words of encouragement that he gave him very early on in their meeting, about not letting into fear and letting it get the best of you and that kind of thing. So it's definitely a really interesting dynamic. And basically, Sentaro kind of resolves that, okay, he'll stay. And so we see that, shortly thereafter, there's a sweet little moment between Kaoru and Ritsuko, who is trying to patch him up after the little altercation. And, Kaoru rests his head on her shoulder. Very sweet moment, comical that the father asks where the paper is and everything from out of the room. And she's kind of sitting there awkward. But as we move on, we see that they're going to get ready for the festival after all. And this is just, I was so happy. I was grinning from ear to ear for the first half of the episode where they're all jamming and they got Ritsuko's father involved. It looks like they want to get Ritsuko to start singing for them. And they actually go through the entire My Favorite Thing song. She sings it, and it's just a really eloquent scene that all follows out. And basically it leads up to Kaoru going home one night and leaving behind some, notes, some musical notes and that kind of thing. And Sentaro decides to chase after him to try to get them to him. He hops on his moped, and there's this really just shocking development, and I'm sorry this is going to be spoilery for anyone who hasn't seen it, but there's basically a car accident. And I cringed when I saw that. I was like, oh my god, they killed Sentaro. And I just sort of held my breath for a few minutes as the next scenes played out, where we find out that, there were injuries. He was basically injured, and it looked like he broke his arm maybe. But his little sister, one of his little sisters, who was tagging along, got the worst of it and actually had to be operated on. And basically, while Sen and his family are in the hospital dealing with that, it's, meanwhile, the big festival that they were supposed to play in is unfolding. And Kaoru's there. He's all ready to put on the show. And Seiji is kind of mocking him. Seiji with his little band Olympus. They plan to blow, Kaoru's little group out of the water. And so, but this scene is basically interrupted when Ritsuko comes up just on the verge of tears because she's heard about Sentaro, and this is when Kaoru finds out. And they are very much thinking, like the viewer is, oh no, what happened to Sentaro, that kind of thing. And I'm holding my breath, I'm cringing. And so Kaoru goes to the hospital, he finds out about the sister and that Sen's okay. And as he tries looking for Sen, he goes up to the roof because he knows that's where he's going to be. And this comes back to what I was saying about them reversing roles in a sense in their the emotional dynamics of the characters. And so there is Sen up on the roof, and Kaoru and he are kind of talking. He basically says to Kaoru in a sort of whimsy that's just from stress and from the trauma of what happened to his sister. He says, I've seen this angel before. Will you take me instead of my little sister, and that kind of thing. And I love the emotional, I got really misty-eyed watching this, but, Kaoru grabs Sentaro's head and pulls him to his belly and says, we can't see each other cry now. You can let it out. And Sen does. And, I did too. And I mean, I have a little sister. I'm sure people out there, whether you have siblings or not, you can relate to not wanting to lose somebody special, whether it's somebody you love in a relationship or somebody you love familial-wise, and brother, sister, family member, whatever. And so it was definitely a heavy moment. And by the end of it, we see that he's left behind his rosary beads, and when Kaoru goes to the church to try to find out where Sen could have gone, the priest doesn't know, the reverend priest, whatever. And we kind of end the way we thought we were going to begin the episode, with Sentaro gone, and nobody knows where he is, and Kaoru's kind of banging on his drums out of frustration and just rage. And Ritsuko's father comes down, and their discussion, basically we see that Kaoru believes Sen is gone for good and that he won't be coming back. And that's pretty much where we leave this episode. And like I say, it was just an emotional roller coaster. Had me grinning and had me laughing in the beginning. And by the end of it, through the middle of it, I was misty-eyed. And by the end of it, I'm just kind of numb. I mean, that's the mark of a great anime series, to bring you to this emotional point where, I can't wait to see how this all concludes, presuming that episode 12 is the finale. And, I'm waiting with bated breath now, because it's like, wow, so much stuff. So I would love to hear from you guys if you've seen the episode, what you thought of it, and if you had the same kind of reaction to it that I did, because it was heavy as hell and just phenomenal. So that's pretty much all I have to say, and, that'll be it from me. I'll catch you later. Peace.